Hello everyone, welcome to my channel.
Dad said it was just a get-together. No invitations, no explanations. But when my cousin texted me about my sister's anniversary party, the one I wasn't told about, something inside me snapped. I wasn't supposed to be there. They never wanted me around, not after years of treating me like the family embarrassment. But that night, I decided I'd show up anyway. When I walked through the front door, every laugh in the room died. Mom froze mid-smile. Dad's voice thundered. "What the hell are you doing here?" And my sister, perfect, flawless Madison, stood there clutching her wine glass, pretending to be shocked. She didn't know I'd seen it, her daughter sneaking something into my backpack. I checked, and froze. 30 minutes later, flashing red and blue lights painted the house. The police had arrived. It started with a single text. Thursday night, 9:47 p.m. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. "Hey Emily, are you going to Madison's anniversary thing on Saturday?" "Hannah." I frowned. "Anniversary thing? What are you talking about?" I typed back. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally. "Oh, you don't know? Your parents are hosting it at their place. Dinner, photos, the whole family's coming. I just assumed you'd be there." My stomach dropped. For a second, I just stared at the screen, reading the message over and over. No, this couldn't be real. I opened our family group chat, no messages. My parents had sent pictures of the backyard setup to everyone except me. I called Hannah immediately. "Please tell me this is a joke." She hesitated. "Emily, I thought you knew. Your mom mentioned it at Aunt Carol's birthday last month. She said it was just a small family dinner for Madison and Derek." "She never told me," I said quietly. My hand was shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Not a word. Silence. Then Hannah whispered, "That's messed up. Do you want me to say something?" "No." I cut her off quickly. "Don't. I'll handle it." After we hung up, I just sat there staring at nothing. The clock ticked, the city hummed outside, but all I heard was my own heartbeat thudding in my ears. It wasn't the first time they'd left me out. Growing up, I was always the different one. Madison was the straight-A prodigy, the perfect daughter. I was the one who colored outside the lines, who chose art over law school, independence over approval. But this? Hosting a family celebration and not even mentioning it to me? That hit different. It wasn't carelessness, it was deliberate. The next morning, I texted Mom. "Hey, Hannah mentioned Madison's party tomorrow. Should I bring anything?" It took 20 minutes for her to respond. "It's just a small get-together, sweetie. Very intimate. We didn't think you'd be interested." A get-together. That's what she called it. Like shrinking the word could make the betrayal smaller too. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the message. My heart ached not from anger, but from recognition. I'd seen this pattern before. They always decided when I was family, and when I wasn't. I put down my phone and whispered to myself, "Fine. You didn't think I'd be interested? Then you'll really be interested when I show up." Heh. That was the moment I decided I was going. Not for revenge. Not even for closure. I just wanted them to look me in the eyes and remember that I still existed. By Friday night, the bitterness had turned into something colder focus. If they wanted to pretend I didn't exist, then fine. But I wouldn't vanish quietly. I stood in front of my closet, sifting through clothes that screamed, "Freelancer barely surviving." Finally, I found one dress that still made me feel powerful, deep burgundy, fitted but simple. It wasn't designer, but it was mine. Madison, of course, would be in something elegant and cream-colored, probably chosen weeks in advance by her husband's stylist friend. She'd look perfect, as always. Madison Hudson. Attorney, wife, mother, golden child. When I looked in the mirror, I saw the opposite: tired eyes, messy curls, a woman who worked alone in her small apartment designing travel ads for clients who ghosted after one project. And yet, the reflection stared back at me with quiet defiance. "You're still standing," I whispered to myself. "And that's enough." The morning of the party, social media rubbed salt in the wound. My Aunt Carol posted an Instagram story of the backyard fairy lights, floral arrangements, champagne glasses already lined up on the table. Caption: Celebrating love and family. I nearly threw my phone. Family. That word tasted bitter. By 5:30 p.m., I was driving through the quiet suburban streets I grew up on, my heart pounding harder with every turn. I hadn't been to my parents' house in nearly a year, not since the last argument about life choices. And the closer I got, the smaller I felt. Each mailbox I passed seemed to whisper, "You don't belong here." When I pulled up, I froze. Cars lined the driveway, Uncle Tom's truck, Grandma's old Buick, even Hannah's little blue sedan. Everyone was there. Everyone except me. I parked 2 houses down, took a deep breath, and looked through the front window. Warm yellow light spilled out like a scene from a holiday card, people laughing, clinking glasses, hugging. The picture-perfect family. And outside, in the cold night air, stood the ghost they'd buried years ago, me. I wanted to turn around. I really did. But something heavier than pride kept me rooted to the spot. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the years of pretending I didn't care. My phone buzzed a message from Hannah. "Are you coming?" I typed back one word. "Already here." I turned off the engine, grabbed my small backpack, the one I always carried my sketchbook in, and straightened my shoulders. No invitation. No welcome. Just me, walking into a world that had erased me. As I stepped out of the car, a strange calm settled over me. I wasn't walking into a party anymore. I was walking into proof that I was real, and that they couldn't write me out of the story forever. The house loomed ahead, glowing like a stage, and I was done playing the villain in their script. I didn't knock. I didn't even pause to fix my hair. The front door opened with a soft click, and just like that, I stepped into their perfect world. The sound of laughter hit me first, followed by the clink of glasses and the faint melody of a jazz playlist humming from the speakers. Then, like a wave retreating from shore, the sound began to die. Every head turned. Every smile froze. 30 people, family, friends, distant cousins stared, as if a ghost had just walked in. My cousin Ryan was the first to react. His jaw dropped. Then, Aunt Carol's smile faltered mid-laugh. One by one, the conversation stopped. The silence was deafening. Mom appeared from the kitchen, balancing a tray of hors d'oeuvres, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. When she saw me, she stopped dead in her tracks. Her voice was tight, controlled, and dripping with warning. "Emily, what are you doing here?" I kept my chin high. "I came to celebrate Madison's anniversary," I said evenly. "I'm her sister, after all." The tray in her hands trembled slightly. Before she could respond, Dad's booming voice cut through the room. He was standing near the fireplace, whiskey glass half full, cheeks flushed from drinking. "You weren't invited?" he said flatly. "This is a private event." I took a slow breath. "It's a family event, and I'm family." His eyes narrowed. "Not tonight. You're not." A low murmur rippled through the crowd, whispers, uncomfortable shifting, someone pretending to cough to fill the silence. Then Madison stepped forward, every movement graceful, rehearsed. Her blonde curls framed her perfectly made-up face. She wore a cream cocktail dress that probably cost more than my month's rent. "It's fine, Dad," she said smoothly, flashing that diplomatic smile she used in courtrooms. "Let her stay. It's not a big deal." Her tone was honeyed, but I caught the dagger underneath it. The fake sympathy, the smug satisfaction. She wanted me here not to include me, but to watch me fall apart. Mom wasn't having it. "It is a big deal, Madison. This is our home, and we decide who's welcome in it." All eyes were on me now, judging, dissecting, measuring how much humiliation I could endure before cracking. I could feel my pulse in my throat, but I didn't move. I stood there, clutching the strap of my backpack, letting the silence do what it always did in our family, choke the truth. Uncle Tom coughed awkwardly. "Well, maybe we should all just calm down." "Stay out of this, Tom," Dad snapped. Mom's tray clattered against the table as she set it down too hard. The metallic sound sliced through the room. I glanced around, at the perfect decorations, the glowing fairy lights, the expensive catering. They had spared no expense for Madison balloons in gold and white, champagne glasses glimmering under the chandelier. And yet, they couldn't spare one text for me. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice steady. If you want me to leave, I said quietly, you'll have to make me. Aunt Carol gasped. Someone's glass hit the floor. Madison's smile wavered for the briefest second, just long enough for me to see the flicker of annoyance behind her eyes. She had expected me to cry, to beg, not to stand there. For the first time in years, I wasn't running from my family's cruelty. I was staring it straight in the face. And the room, that perfect, polished room, had completely stopped breathing. Dinner was served like nothing had happened, but everyone's laughter sounded forced, brittle, hollow. I sat at the far end of the long oak table, next to the dessert plates, where no one would have to look directly at me. The silverware clinked too loud. The small talk was too polite. It was the kind of silence people fill when they're terrified of what might be said next. Dad broke it first. Of course he did. So, Emily, he said, swirling the ice in his glass. Still doing those little design projects from your apartment? My fork hovered midair. Yes, Dad. I actually have a few clients right now. Clients? He repeated, smirking. You mean people who pay you to sit in your pajamas and play with colors all day? A couple of relatives snickered. Mom joined in smoothly, her tone sugar-coated but sharp as a knife. Your sister manages 2 kids, a husband, and a full law career, dear. You should really take notes. The table chuckled politely. Madison just smiled, that perfect, rehearsed smile. Oh, Mom, don't embarrass her. I'm sure Emily's creative lifestyle works for her. Creative lifestyle. Translation: failure dressed as self-expression. I took a sip of water, pretending it was wine. At least I'm happy, Dad snorted. Happy? You call scraping by happy? Mom added softly. Not everyone measures success by money, sweetie. But successful people don't have to borrow from their parents every few months. That one hit hard. I'd asked for help twice, once when my car broke down, once when rent went up unexpectedly. I'd paid them back both times, but to them, that debt never expired. My jaw tightened. I paid you back, Mom. That's not the point, Dad said, raising his voice. The point is you needed it in the first place. Madison's never asked us for a dime. She handles her life like an adult. I could feel every eye at the table pressing down on me. The humiliation burned hot and deep. Then Madison spoke, her voice calm, measured, but full of venom. We're not trying to attack you, Em. It's just, you make it hard to be around you sometimes. Oh, really? I shot back. Because I exist? Her smile faltered. No, because you always find something to complain about. You criticize my parenting, my job, everything I do. You act like the victim. Victim, I repeated, my voice rising. You planned a whole party and didn't even tell me. That's not me being dramatic, that's you being cruel. The tension was electric. Forks stopped moving. No one dared to breathe. Enough, Dad barked. We're not doing this here. You've embarrassed this family enough times. Embarrassed you how? I demanded. By not being Madison? By not fitting into the perfect little picture you built for her? His eyes darkened. You gave up, Emily. You dropped out of law school, you threw away a future. You chose the easy path and now you're paying for it. I didn't give up, I snapped. I changed paths because I wanted something real. He slammed his palm on the table so hard that the glasses rattled. You matter when you earn it, Emily. The room went dead silent. Even Madison's husband, Derek, shifted uncomfortably. I wanted to scream, to throw my glass at the wall, to make them feel the years of pain they'd buried under fake smiles. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled. A small, brittle smile. Got it, I whispered. I'll remember that. At that moment, a small figure brushed against my side. Hi, Aunt Emily, a soft voice said. I looked down. Chloe Madison's 9-year-old daughter stood beside me, clutching a toy purse, her eyes wide and innocent. Hey, sweetheart, I said gently, forcing a smile. How are you? She didn't answer. Her hand brushed against my backpack just a second too long. Then she turned and skipped back toward her mother. I froze. My heart gave a strange twist, like it knew something my mind didn't yet. Madison ruffled her daughter's hair, looking across the table at me with that same smug calmness, the kind that said she'd already won. I didn't know it then, but that little gesture, that single moment of contact, would change everything. And by the end of the night, someone in that perfect family was going to be in handcuffs. At first, I thought I imagined it the light brush of Chloe's hand against my backpack. But the feeling wouldn't leave me. 10 minutes passed, then 20. The conversations around me blurred into static. Laughter floated somewhere distant, detached, unreal. My palms were sweating. Something in my gut screamed that something was off. I reached down to adjust my bag and froze. It felt heavier. My breath hitched. I didn't even think. I just stood up, muttering something about needing the bathroom, and walked away before anyone could stop me. The hallway was quiet, carpet muffling my footsteps. My reflection in the mirror looked pale and uncertain, like a stranger wearing my face. Inside the bathroom, I locked the door and leaned against it for a long second. Then I set the backpack on the counter. "Please be nothing," I whispered. I unzipped it slowly. My heart stopped. Inside, nestled between my wallet and my sketchbook, was a small, clear plastic bag filled with pills. At least 24 white, round, stamped with markings I didn't recognize. My fingers trembled as I stared at it. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Then the realization hit me like a punch to the chest. This wasn't an accident. Someone had put this there deliberately, and I knew exactly who would benefit if I got caught with it. My mind went blank, then sharp all at once. Madison. Of course it was her. The perfect sister, the untouchable lawyer, the one who'd spent her entire life making me look like a failure. And now she'd found the perfect way to end me. If the police came, if someone found these pills in my bag, I'd be done. A family scandal, my reputation shredded, maybe even arrested. I gripped the edge of the counter, trying not to scream. "You're not crazy. You're not paranoid. They did this." Then a strange calm settled over me. Cold, focused. Fine. If this was her game, I could play too. I grabbed my phone, switched to camera mode, and started taking pictures. Close-ups, angles, timestamps, the bag inside the backpack. My hands nowhere near it. The background clearly the guest bathroom of my parents' house. Click, 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 evidence. Then I grabbed a tissue, carefully lifted the plastic bag, and held it up to the light. The pills gleamed dully dangerous and expensive looking. A nervous laugh escaped me. "You really overplayed your hand, Maddie." Still using the tissue, I folded the bag and slipped it into the pocket of my jacket. Then I stared at the mirror, studying my reflection. I didn't see the scared girl they'd made me feel like all my life. I saw someone calculating, someone done being the victim. And as that thought settled, I felt something almost electric, a rush of control. I unlocked the door, smoothed my hair, and walked back down the hallway. The laughter had resumed. The music played on. Nobody even noticed I was gone. Perfect. From across the room, I saw Madison chatting near the dining table, her cream blazer draped neatly over the back of a chair. She looked radiant, unbothered, glowing with self-satisfaction. I took a deep breath and walked past the guests, as casually as I could. When I reached her chair, I let my jacket brush against hers and slipped the plastic bag into the inner pocket. It was quick, silent, precise. Then I turned, grabbed my drink from the counter, and smiled. If Madison wanted to humiliate me tonight, she'd get her wish. Just not in the way she expected. When I came back into the living room, it felt like walking straight into a storm. Every conversation, every laugh, every polite smile, all of it grated against my skin. I could feel Madison's gaze burning into me from across the room. Curious, suspicious. She tilted her head, that fake sweetness plastered across her face. "Enjoy your little break, Emily?" I matched her smile. "Oh, absolutely. I just needed a moment to clear my head." Her eyes flicked to my backpack at my side. "You always carry that thing everywhere, don't you?" "Old habit," I said. "You never know what people might put inside it." For a fraction of a second, her smile froze. Then she laughed lightly. Still dramatic as ever. Dad was refilling his glass near the bar cart, already red-faced from alcohol. "You still here?" he barked. "Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough for one night?" Mom joined in, voice sharp as glass. "Just leave, Emily, before you ruin this for everyone." I turned slowly to face them. The music faded in my ears. All I heard was my heartbeat. "You're right," I said softly. "I should leave. I really hope everything works out exactly as you planned." Something in my tone made Madison frown. But I didn't wait for a response. I set down my empty glass, gave one last look at the glittering room full of people who'd spent their lives pretending I didn't belong, and walked out the front door. Outside, the air was cold and sharp. I could still hear the faint hum of laughter from inside. I sat in my car, hands trembling, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. For the first time all night, I felt calm, not happy, not angry, just done. I waited. 10 minutes. 15. Then I picked up my phone. "Non. Emergency police line. What's your report?" "Hi," I said, keeping my voice even. "I was just at a family gathering 847 Maple Grove Drive. I think someone there might be in possession of illegal substances. There are children present. I'm worried." The operator asked a few questions. I gave just enough information, nothing that pointed to anyone in particular. Then I hung up. I watched the minutes tick by. 20, 25, and then the sound of sirens. Flashing red and blue lights painted the quiet suburban street like a nightmare. I watched from my car as officers stepped out, hands resting on their belts, speaking calmly at the door. Inside, I could see silhouettes moving frantically. The party had stopped dead. Then came the chaos. Hannah called me first. Her voice panicked. "Emily, what the hell happened? The police are here. They said someone called in a report about drugs." "Drugs?" I repeated, feigning confusion. "That's awful. They're searching coats and bags." Everyone agreed because no one thought there was anything to hide. Madison is freaking out. "Why?" I asked, my voice level. "Because..." Hannah hesitated. "Because they found something. In her jacket pocket." I let the silence stretch. "What did they find?" "A bag of pills, Emily. Prescription painkillers. OxyContin, I think. They're arresting her right now." I exhaled slowly, pretending to sound shocked. "Oh my God. Did you have anything to do with this?" Hannah whispered. I stared through my windshield at the flashing lights in the distance, the shapes of officers moving in and out of the house, Madison's perfect world collapsing in real time. "Why would you think that?" I said quietly. Hannah didn't answer. The only sound was her uneven breathing. Finally, she said, "If you did something, I don't want to know. But part of me thinks she had it coming." The call ended. I sat in the darkness, the cold seeping into my bones, watching everything unravel from afar. For once, I wasn't the one being blamed. For once, they were the ones explaining themselves. I wasn't sure if what I'd done was justice or revenge, maybe both. But as the police car pulled away from my parents' driveway, Madison sitting in the back seat, handcuffed and crying, I whispered something to the empty car. "You matter when you earn it, right, Dad?" Well, I just did. The night after the arrest, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Calls, texts, voicemails, each one more frantic than the last. Mom's voice came first, shrill, broken, desperate. "Emily, you need to call the police and tell them there's been a mistake. Madison would never do something like this. You know her, she's not capable of that." Then Dad. His voice was rough, almost slurred. "I don't know what game you're playing, but this family needs to stick together. Madison needs your help. You're her sister, damn it." I deleted every message without listening to the end. By the next morning, the story had already hit the local news. Prominent attorney arrested for drug possession and child endangerment. There she was, Madison's flawless headshot from her firm's website plastered under the headline. The comments were brutal. Typical rich family scandal. What kind of mother does that? I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Hannah called around noon. They released her this morning, but she has to appear in court Monday. The police found OxyContin, a lot of it. She says she has no idea how it got in her jacket. "That's terrible," I said, my voice perfectly steady. "Emily," Hannah whispered, "I have to ask. Did you know?" I stared at the sunlight pouring through my apartment window. "Know what?" "That this would happen. Because if Madison really did try to frame you..." She trailed off. I sighed softly. "Hannah, some people dig their own graves. I just stop handing them shovels." She didn't reply, but I heard the faint exhale of someone who understood and didn't want to. That evening, I opened my voicemail again. Mom sobbing, Dad yelling, Madison crying. Emily, please, her voice cracked. You have to believe me. Someone set me up. They're saying I used Chloe, that I told her to hide something in a bag, but she got confused. They might take my kids, Emily. Please, please help me. For a moment, I almost called her back. The sound of her begging pierced something deep inside me. But then I remembered her smirk at the dinner table, the way she looked at me like I was nothing, the way she'd used her own child as a pawn. No, she made her choice. Sunday came with more chaos. The group chat exploded. Aunt Carol wrote, "This whole thing is tearing the family apart. We need to stay united." Uncle Tom replied, "Maybe Madison should have thought about that before she did what she did." By the time court day arrived, Madison's husband, Derek, looked hollowed out, dark circles under his eyes, his perfect hair unkempt. He called me that afternoon. "Emily," he said quietly, "can I come over?" I hesitated, then agreed. He showed up 20 minutes later, standing in my doorway, holding his coat like he didn't know what to do with it. He looked exhausted. "She says you framed her," he said finally. I raised an eyebrow. "And do you believe that?" He hesitated. "I don't know what to believe. The police think Madison told Chloe to put the pills in your bag, and somehow they ended up back in hers. Chloe confirmed part of it," she said. "Her mom gave her something to hide." My chest tightened. "Poor kid," I murmured. "Yeah," he said bitterly. "She's in therapy now. She cries every night. She thinks she's going to jail." He rubbed his face, looking 10 years older. "Emily, whatever happened that night, you could end this. If you told the police you think Madison's innocent..." I laughed, low and cold. "Innocent? Derek, she tried to destroy me. She made a mistake." "No," I cut him off. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. What she did was a choice. She used her daughter to frame her own sister. That's not a mistake. That's evil." He stared at me for a long time. His voice dropped to a whisper. "You're right. I just wish it didn't have to end like this." As he left, I stood at the window, watching him walk away under the gray sky. Madison had always been the sun in our family. Everything revolved around her. Now her world was collapsing, and I couldn't tell if the emptiness I felt was guilt or peace. My phone buzzed again. Mom's new message: "We're going to fix this, Emily. You'll see. Madison just needs us." I turned the phone face down on the table and whispered, "No, Mom, she needed to lose everything first." And for the first time in years, I slept through the night. Months passed. Winter came and went, and so did the headlines. Madison's face slowly disappeared from the news cycle, replaced by fresher scandals. But in our family, the silence was louder than ever. She'd taken a plea deal, 3 years probation, mandatory counseling, 500 hours of community service. Her law license was suspended. Her firm quietly removed her profile from their website. Derek filed for divorce a week later. He won primary custody of the kids. Madison was allowed supervised visits twice a week, and even those were temporary. Mom and Dad mortgaged their house to pay for lawyers and reputation management. They called it love. I called it denial. They still hadn't spoken to me, not really. Only long, carefully worded texts about forgiveness and family unity. Never an apology. Never the words I actually needed. We were wrong, and I knew they never would. One cold morning in late March, I woke up to an email from a name I didn't recognize. From Dr. Patricia Walsh. Subject: regarding Chloe Hudson. My stomach tightened as I clicked it open. "Dear Emily, I'm Chloe's therapist. She's been asking if you're angry with her. She feels a lot of guilt and shame over what happened, and it's affecting her healing. If you're comfortable, a short message from you, even a sentence, would help her more than you know. Warm regards, Dr. Walsh." I sat frozen for a long time, staring at those words. Angry with her? How could I be angry with a child who'd been used as a pawn in an adult's war? I started typing. Deleted the first draft. Tried again. "Dear Dr. Walsh, please tell Chloe that I'm not angry with her, not even a little. She didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices and kids get caught in the middle. She was very brave, and I'm proud of her for telling the truth. None of this was her fault. With love, Emily. I hit send before I could overthink it. Dr. Walsh replied that same evening. She cried with relief when she read your message. Thank you. I stared at my screen until the words blurred. Then, for the first time in a long time, I cried too, not the bitter, angry kind of tears I'd swallowed for years, but the kind that came when something inside finally unclenched. That night, I dreamed of Chloe's little hand brushing against my backpack. Except this time, in the dream, she wasn't planting anything. She was returning what had been stolen: my dignity, my voice, my peace. The next morning, I went for a walk. The world felt cleaner somehow: quiet streets, frost melting off rooftops, the faint smell of spring in the air. I thought about everything that had happened, the lies, the humiliation, the chaos. Had I gone too far? Maybe. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Because justice doesn't always wear a badge or stand in a courtroom. Sometimes, it's a quiet woman with shaking hands who decides she's done being the family scapegoat. My parents still call it that misunderstanding. They still invite me to get-togethers. I never attend. And every time I ignore the invitation, I remember that night, the look on Madison's face when her perfect world cracked. Do I regret it? No. But I do wish things had been different. That I hadn't needed to become my own revenge just to feel seen. I stopped in front of my reflection in a shop window, hair messy, coffee in hand. Free. For years, they made me believe I was the problem. Now, standing here, I knew the truth. I was the lesson they didn't want to learn. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. Sometimes, it just needs a little help finding the curb. And I have no regrets.